How many of you are familiar with George Mueller? Any of you ever heard the name? You need to become very familiar with him. Probably one of the greatest men of prayer the world has ever known. He made it his point to never ask for money in ministry. But instead he would pray and he would ask God for guidance and for deliverance and for provision, and God always provided. Throughout his life, he built several orphanages, took care of thousands of orphans. He would pray and God would show up. At his first pastoral appointment that he was asked to go to, he didn't have the money to get to that city where the ministry was to begin. But God reassured his heart that he would make it there. So he and his wife packed up, they got on the train, they had enough money to make it halfway. They got halfway. George Mueller went to the ticket booth to buy a ticket, and his wife said, "You don't have any money." And he said, "God will provide." And he waited in line until he got right up to the window. And as he stood at the window with no money, a person stepped up to him and said, "God told me I'm supposed to give this to you." And it was more than enough to pay for the remainder of the trip, but also to provide some food and some extra things for he and his wife on the way. Just one little story of George Mueller's life. Hundreds and hundreds of stories like that where he trusted God. The reason why that's really important is because George Mueller said that he did not have the gift of faith. You know, in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it says that some have been given the gift of faith. He said he didn't have the gift of faith, but he trusted God. And he said the reason why it's important that you know he didn't have the gift of faith was because he wanted to show everybody the example that God hears your prayers. It doesn't take an enormous gift of faith. It takes a heart that just will choose to trust Jesus in every way. It's very important for the remainder of this message because in Psalm 13 starts out this way, and how many of us can relate to this? How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and every day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Have you ever felt like you're there? Felt like that just sums up your whole life? And then his cry, verse 3, "Look on me and answer, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. My enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall." Many of us are in that place right now, and we just don't see God at work, and it's hard for us to really trust that he's there. It's as though he's gone not behind a cloud, but like he's behind a huge mountain, and he doesn't even care about us. We begin to doubt, maybe not doubt God, but we begin to doubt ourselves whether we're someone that God would love, which in fact is doubting God. The dictionary says doubt is the uncertainty based on fear and assumptions about somebody or something. So when we begin to doubt that God's going to show up or that God cares about us, it helps to exacerbate that within us. It says, "Where are you, God? Why have you abandoned me?" Jesus felt that on the cross, didn't he? My God, why have you forsaken me? Isn't it nice to know that he understands? I mean, misery does love company, doesn't it? I know that in high school, if I flunked a test and there were only 10 of us taking it, I hope the other 10 flunked too. Because then it wasn't my fault, it was the test's fault. When we fail, we do love it when someone else fails along with us. It's kind of nice to know that when Jesus suffered, he certainly understands what we feel like when we feel that we've been abandoned. There was another person who felt abandoned in 1 Kings chapter 19. These are in your bulletin, also in your Bible. Talking about Elijah after he had seen the destruction of the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. Jezebel puts out a decree to have him killed. He had seen all the miracles of God, but in this one moment, in his fear, he felt like God was not with him. So verse 9, there he went into a cave and he spent the night. And the word of the Lord came to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? He replied, I've been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, broken down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me too. Have you ever felt like you're the only one? Everybody else's life is just going great, but you're the only one whose life has fallen apart. You need to underline that. I'm the only one left. One of these days I'll do a message called, Am I Really the Only One? I used to think I was the only one who had some of the problems I have. Until I found out other people had it too, and then I didn't feel very special. It was nice when I thought I was the only one, that nobody else understood. But when I realized a lot of people understood because they were going through the same things. I'm the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. Verse 11, the Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak up over his face, and he went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then the voice said to him, what are you here for, Elijah? You know, we're going to finish that in just a moment, but God demonstrates his power in a wind, in an earthquake, in a fire. Things that Elijah could not approach. Sometimes we feel like God's just too big or too holy for us to come near him. But it's when he finally whispers that we know we can go before him. And then we hear the voice. Why are you here? Verse 14, he said again, I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, broken down your altars, put your prophets to death with the sword. I'm the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me too. Repetitious prayer, isn't it? He's been saying that over and over again. It's his complaint. He said it earlier in that chapter to an angel. I'm the only one left. I'm the only one left. Everybody else is dead. Everybody else has rejected me. He was depressed. He was afraid. He had seen God handle so many things, but he was finally at this place where he was going, I doubt he can handle this one. Now, if I were to go around this room and ask you, how many miracles have you seen in your life? How many things have you been brought through? How many times has God counted your tears and given you comfort? How many times? And then you hit a place where you think, this one's too big for him. You know, Elijah hit that place. This is just too big for me. I doubt that he can bring me through it. I doubt right now. I've got this video I want to show you.
I remember my little niece ran up to me and told me, "We learned about Jesus today." And I could tell by her smile she was so excited to learn about this man that she did not quite know yet, but she knew without a doubt for it to be true, because after all, Mommy said so. And that was the first time in my life that I looked into the eyes of a child and envied them, because she had no idea of what it feels like to doubt. What it feels like to have your entire belief system overload with skepticism, to never know the day that you would finally be able to live beyond the shadow of a doubt. I've lived in its darkness for so long, it seems like I have all the right questions, but never enough answers, and my faith is small enough to fit in the cracks of my palms. God, every night I lay my head down to sleep, the city of my mind is attacked by a legion of questions, threatening the living rooms of my sanity and holding them hostage. Can you help me? Last year, my grandmother laid in a hospital bed like a bus stop, waiting for God to come pick her up. I had never seen such pain and such confidence living in the same eyes when she told me, "I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know who I belong to." And I was so happy for her. And something inside of me wished that somehow before she passed away, she could pass down her confidence in God to me like an old family picture. I remember sitting in the back row of a cold sanctuary, crying, because I desperately wanted what the preacher was saying to be true, but my doubts were preaching a sermon of their own, and the streams of my tears turned into oceans of frustration. I remember sitting in a college classroom, and the only thing being tested is my faith in God. The only thing passing is my hope. Me, in a backpack full of fear, and nowhere to go. No one to help me unpack. I sleep, but I never rest. These lines around my eyes are not wrinkles, they are maps that show you the winding roads that lead to my pain. I'm tired. And I'm longing for the day that I can place my fingers in his nail-pierced hands, because honestly, I've considered quitting, but where will I go? Back? There's no home for the living in the land of the dead, so I keep pressing forward. Today I have faith, but I can't make any promises about tomorrow. I'm surprised I've held on this long. God, just make me feel like I'm not crazy. God, let me know that I'm not just making friends with these walls. When I pray, I'm not questioning you. I just got questions. Don't leave me here. Don't leave me. My child, when it seems like you have all the right questions, but never enough answers, and your faith is small enough to fit in the cracks of your palms, I told you, faith the size of mustard seeds can rearrange whole landscapes and turn mountains into open highways. Faith comes by my word, so maybe you've cuffed your ears. My child, don't be childish. But consider the child whose faith has not quite learned the definition of impossible. Have your questions. I'm not telling you to have a blind faith. I'm telling you to consider the blind men who had faith and believed my words before they were even able to see me. Consider the birds that eat from my hand and do not fall from the sky without my consent. So how much more will I love the ones that I died for? Before you doubt me, doubt your doubts. Doubt your doubts, and you will see they are just as empty as the tomb that I walked from. Truth is, you know I'm here. You know my truth, and you're scared. Scared of what that means. Scared of what that should cost you. That one day they will all laugh you right out of their classrooms and scorn you out of their courtrooms. But my love serves as an eviction notice to anxiety. When they cast stones, my love casts out fear. I am the author and finisher of your faith. I've never started a work that I will not finish. I am the one who will give you courage to stare death in the face and say, how dare you try to scare me? I know who I belong to. And when it feels like you are drowning, in a sea of your questions, just know I'm there. I'm there. Like when I drowned in the Red Sea of my blood for you, and these hands that took holes will hold you. And when I told you that I would love you forever, I meant it. Don't you see these rings in my hands? See, we are married. For better or for worse. Through sickness and in health, through faith and through questions, till death brings us closer, you are mine. You are mine, and I am yours, I promise.
We've all been there. We've all experienced it. Elijah experienced it. Jesus experienced it. You experience it. The remainder of that story in 1 Kings 19, starting with verse 15. Remember, Elijah's last words were, I'm the only one left. I'm the only one left. And now they're going to kill me too. To get to this place, Mount Horeb, Elijah had traveled 40 days and 40 nights. And he traveled this distance, and an angel spoke to him along the way, strengthened him so he could make it to the mountain, so he could talk to God. What distance are you willing to travel to meet with God? Sometimes it's just the distance from standing to kneeling. When was the last time you traveled that distance to meet with God? But Elijah had gone 40 days, 40 nights. And then verse 15, the Lord said to him, go back the way you came. And go to the desert of Damascus. When you get there, anoint Hazael king over Aram. Also anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, king over Israel. And anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, from Abel Mahalah, to succeed you as prophet. Jehu will put to death any who escape the word of Hazael, and Elisha will put to death any who escape the sword of Jehu. See, listen, Elijah, those people who are going to kill you, listen, I'm going to kill them. I'm going to take care of the ones who want to destroy you. I'm going to stand up for you. But then he says this. He says, by the way, Elijah, I want you to know something. Crybaby. Verse 18. I've still reserved 7,000 in Israel. You're not the only one. I've reserved 7,000 in Israel, and all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and all whose mouths have not kissed him. Elijah, you've traveled these 40 days and nights to come and tell me you're the only one. There's still 7,000 others. Still wonder if God knows each one of his kids? If God knows who's really being faithful to him or not? God not only knows who you are, he knows how many hairs are on your head and how many hairs used to be on your head. God understands, and He knows, and He loves you. We go through hard times. I want to tell you again, we live in a broken world. We are broken people. God did not cause your brokenness. We cannot blame Him for our brokenness. He is the answer to our brokenness. And if we ever lose sight of that, we'll never fully be able to embrace the fact that He's with us. You know, Psalm 13 started off, "Why have you forsaken me? Where are you?" This is how it ends. Psalm 13, verse 5. "But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord, for He has been good to me." Remember how it started? "God, why aren't you listening to me? God, where are you? God, I'm alone, God." And then He comes back and He ends it with, "But you've been good to me. I trust you." Maybe you're in a very hurtful, difficult time right now. Maybe you're broken and you feel like you're at the very depths of despair. In Psalm 139, it says, "If I go to the highest heavens, I find that you're there. If I go into the deepest pit, I find that you are there." Well, let me rephrase that. If I go into the depths of despair, God will still be there. Because He experienced it on the cross, He knows what you experience. You're not there alone, and you're not the only one. He is with you, and He will bring you through.